You've worked with some of the most like biggest names out there, and you've also worked with startups. What would you say are some of the most common things that big companies, big brands, forget to think about when it comes to your expertise in the patents and trademarks and stuff? And then, in contrast, compare that to what startups usually forget to think about.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to go with the big brands first, I mean, they're usually pretty good. I mean, if you get to a large size company, have a large amount of revenue, generally you get there because you're good at what you do, right? And so Amazon wouldn't be great if, or it wouldn't be a huge company if they didn't offer a great service and people loved using it. Apple wouldn't be huge if they didn't have a lot of products and innovation. And so, I think that one of the things that if you're not careful with the larger companies, that they tend to forget that everybody started as a startup, and sometimes they have the opportunity to squash them, even if it's hey, we can have a frivolous lawsuit that's still going to cost the startup or small business way more money than they have, and we can just put them out because we want to be ahead of the competition. And so they tend to forget that more on just a business sense and business perspective. The other thing that sometimes I've seen, depends on the size of the company and how or good they are at it, is you'll start to just file patents on everything or trademarks on everything. And they say, hey, we have the money, we have the bandwidth, but it's not that you don't have the funds maybe to spend on it, but is it the best return on your investment? And just because you can spend on it doesn't mean that it's worthwhile. And so sometimes, because you get big, your budgets grow, you let the attorneys drive things more than they should as far as pursuing innovation, because now you're going after things that probably aren't valuable to the company. The one other thing on bigger businesses, sometimes it's probably more medium sized, is they always get the tipping point that this doesn't make sense to do a third or a law firm versus hire it in-house. If you're a small company, the answer is simple. We don't have the budget to hire a full-time attorney. But as you get bigger, and sometimes because they have relationships, they've been using a law firm for a while, and that they never explore bringing it in-house as opposed to doing it. And there's different reasons. Sometimes it makes sense to bring it in-house, and sometimes I don't. So big companies, those are some of the things that they sometimes will trip up on. Part to flip now, your second part of your question is small companies. And small companies are kind of, in a sense, the opposite. Most of the time, the issue that the small companies have is, one, they just don't realize that they need it, and so they wait way too long, or two, that they don't have the budgets, right? And by all means, I get it. As a startup or a small business, you always have more things to spend money on than money to spend, and you're always trying to figure out, which or where to spend that money. And so a lot of times you're saying, well, legal stuff, intellectual property, we'll worry about that down the road. We'll do that at a later date once we have more money, once we're bigger. And they'll wait too long, and then they start to miss some of the windows that they can pursue it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you were to take the patent. You had an awesome invention, going to change the world. You're a startup, a small business, and you're going to say, hey, this is going to be a really impactful thing, big marketplace and everything else. And so they get going, and they don't think about, hey, put it off, push it down the road. They don't think about it. They're out in the marketplace for a couple of years, and then they circle back and say, hey, now we're making some money, we're getting some income. Why don't we go and look and see if we can get this patented? By that point, they're already too late. So, and one of the rules, as an example in patent law, is anytime you put things out in the public, so put it on a website, you do a presentation, white paper, you start selling it, you start pitching it, whatever that is, from the first instance you put out in the public, you have 1 year within which you can pursue a patent on it. You miss that window, you've now just donated your invention to the public. Anybody can do it, anybody can pursue it, and you can't get protection on it. And so in that sense, a lot of times they'll come in and say, hey, I've been doing this a couple of years, now I'd like to get protection. And then we get to talk about how that's awesome, their business is doing well, but they can't get protection. And there's some other things, kind of like with trademarks, similar things, as far as, if somebody else files on it before they do. So most of the time with startups and small businesses, it's that they wait too long, and because they don't understand or what some of the things that they can trip up on are.